I'm in the place that I prayed for. 7 years, my tears hit my knees, hit the floor, begging for you to take the pain I felt in my body every day. Why am I surprised when I look inside and there's no trace that remains? You do miracles, this is nothing new to you. But with my conscious mind, I question what's happening in front of my eyes. But nothing's making sense. I know I'm not supposed to understand, but just accept. You do miracles. You do miracles. Build up walls in a broken family. Thought that would be the end of our story, but you melted hearts like snow in the spring. Now the sound of forgiveness rings, 'cause you do miracles. This is nothing new to you. But with my conscious mind, I question what's happening in front of my eyes. And nothing's making sense. I know I'm not supposed to understand, but just accept. You do miracles. You do miracles. Why am I surprised when I look inside and there's no trace that remains of the pain, the hurt, the shame? I will never be the same. With you there's no impossible. Mountains crumble when you talk. You take faith and multiply it, giving joy through the fires each and every day. You do miracles. This is nothing new to you. But with my conscious mind, I question what's happening in front of my eyes. When nothing's making sense, I know I'm not supposed to understand, but just accept. That you do miracles. You do miracles. Generations have been changed by the power of your name. Thank you that you do miracles.
Hello, I'm Joe from Blackman Community Church of the Nazarene, and I'm here with Olivia Farabaugh, and she's coming to do our Music Inspired by Community Night on January 21st at 6 p.m. at the Lane Agri Park Center. All admission will be a donation to Moving Onward Moms, which is a single moms group that's helping them find careers and provide for them. And we just want to take some time and learn Olivia's story before January 21st. So, yeah. So
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here. So just kind of give us a background of where you're from and your journey to where we are today.
Yes, so I'm originally from Hershey, Pennsylvania area, Palmyra to be specific. Gotta represent hometown. But
I actually been to Hershey. We went
yeah,
to there was a festival, Cornerstone Festival, that used to, I don't know if they still do it there or not, but
what?
yeah, so we went there a couple times because I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so it's a couple hour drive over for us.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, that's not that far. It's
so,
closer than being here in
yeah.
Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't come from Nashville.
No, I loved growing up in that area and it's really beautiful. But my heart, whenever I started playing guitar in like fourth grade, I just like my heart got more and more on fire for it. And whenever I came down to Nashville for the first time for a songwriting workshop, I was like, this is where I need to be.
I bet. Yeah, because like I moved here in '06, and was working for a record label and behind the scenes, but like I just fell in love with Nashville. Even when the label folded 6 months later, I stayed.
No,
Yeah,
6 months.
yeah. So it didn't last long. But,
God needed you here. That's
yeah,
why. He's
yeah.
like, that's okay.
But yeah, it was fun because then I went on tour with the band as a merch guy, so it was some
That's
good
so fun.
experiences. And now I'm a family guy, so I just
I
stay
love
behind
that.
the scenes now.
I love that. It's awesome.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
No, that's great. Yeah, so I moved here in 2 years ago, like this month actually in December, and it has been an adventure. I moved here thinking that I was going to be doing country music, and then God's like, nope, I'm going to work on your heart. And he really just has like transformed my heart. And there's a saying Kelly Mittner says, you can't sit in the presence of the Lord and not be changed. And that's just so incredibly true. I've always had a relationship with the Lord, but I didn't know him in like the intimate relationship that you can truly have with him and
yeah,
being able to really spend time with him and diving into his word and everything. I always knew that he was a part of my life and I always had that faith. But when we moved here, we encountered a lot of challenges, and it really opened my eyes to true safety is found whenever we're with him and spending time with him and in his arms. So
yeah, that's awesome. I grew up in the church, so it was like I always knew how to play a Christian, but it wasn't until a few years ago or I would say more than a few years ago, but till I was a teenager that I really understood what it meant to follow God. And I've had my issues and worked through a lot of things in the last year, and it's been a long journey, but He's on the journey with you. So
that's perfectly said. It's so true. It's definitely a journey, but he's walking with us.
He's leading that path.
Yes.
And sometimes we go, hey, what's that over there? And he's like, come back. But yeah, but yeah, that's awesome. So, like, you know what I want to say
It's
next?
okay.
So you moved on to Christian music. Like, who's your inspiration in Christian music that you kind of follow? Because I know you said country music, and there's not a lot of Christian country
Yeah,
music.
right.
People.
It's been interesting. And my husband, he always said, like, it was funny because whenever I moved here, everyone's like, well, like, who are you, like, as an artist? Or, like, what genre are you? And I was like, oh, well, country. But, like, I didn't quite ever really fit in that box. And, like, I always struggled with my identity in music until God, like, really made it clear. He's like, you're doing the right thing in music, but you're just doing the wrong genre. You're in the wrong lane, but you're on the right path, but not quite. So now I love like Lauren Daigle. She inspires me so much on so many different levels. And Ann Wilson, if I could mix the two of them together, that's who
I guess she'd probably be the closest to country that
them.
Christian music has. So.
Yeah, yes. But like it's funny because the first song that I ever wrote when I first started playing the guitar was like about God and about angels. And so poor God's just up there watching me just like I was started on the right path, and then I just veered off for a second and then got back on.
Yeah, we all tend to do that.
Yes.
That, like I said, that's that shiny thing in the corner. Like you're like, hey, and then he's like, that's not the exit ramp you're supposed to get off on. It's down there farther. So
Yes, so true.
But yeah, music's always been like that's always been my go-to when I'm my therapy. Like if I'm struggling, it's just throw on so earbuds in and just sit, especially
Yeah.
Christian music. Like I don't listen to a lot of non-Christian music, but there's certain songs that it's like, okay, I need this song for
Yeah.
and listen to it for 3 hours on repeat.
Yes, yes.
So
I just did that with another song, Fishes and Loaves by Josiah Queen, if anyone's looking for a new song to listen to.
I'll have
That
to
one I
play that.
listened to for 3 hours, legit.
I
On
remember
repeat.
the night I moved to Nashville from Cleveland, like I was under spiritual attack. Like I was hyperventilating, and at the time, I hated the song, but "Strong Tower" by Cutlass. I hated that song, but I listened to it for like 10 straight hours.
Yes. That's awesome. I hate this, but I love it.
But I'm like, I needed the words, but yeah, it's like because I was moving here when I moved here. Like I pulled up to the house that I moved into, never meeting the people I was moving in with.
Wow.
They had a room for me.
It's a
Like,
lot of faith.
I only met the people at the label twice, and they're like, "Hey, we really want you to move down here and work with us." And I said, and it took a leap of faith, and
So cool.
and
That's
so
so
sometimes
cool.
that's what you have to do. That like you gotta go. I don't know why I'm leaving. I have no family anywhere near Tennessee.
Yes.
All my brothers and family is still all in Ohio, and I moved 10 hours away,
Yes.
and he had a plan, even though things didn't go well when I first moved here. He's like, "Nope, that's where I have you. Things
So
will work
true.
out."
That's so true. And I love that you like bring that up because like whenever we moved here, so we had a lot of challenges and one of them was I was diagnosed with chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So I moved into a house back in 2016 that had black mold that we didn't know about. And so it triggered this gene that can lay dormant in like 24% of people. And you can never know you have it until you have a perfect storm of toxin exposure. And then your body's not able to process out toxins and causes a wide range of symptoms. But I was in a place in my health journey. And so whenever we moved here, I was like full of anxiety. And that's where like I felt so paranoid that like our home was going to become unsafe again. I felt paranoid every time I was going into any places. Then a tornado came and it touched down like a mile from us, like a month after we moved. And I'm like, I can't feel safe anywhere, like not even inside, not outside, not anywhere. And that's whenever I really started sitting with the Lord. And that's whenever I discovered that that's where true safety is, whenever we're with Him. And I think there's so much to be said about like being able to sit in the presence of the Lord, and He always changes us because that's whenever He really started changing my heart and like showing me what He really wanted me to do. And so in the midst of those hardships, He gets to move in such beautiful ways whenever we decide to like sit at His feet and just see what He has for
Yeah,
us.
anxiety's always been a struggle for me. I had no idea how to handle it, and handle it all in the wrong ways. Turn into somewhat of an addiction. I won't say
Yeah.
somewhat of an addiction. Turn into an addiction. My wife, it was a full-fledged addiction, which it wasn't a substance, but it was definitely, and that's the only way I knew how to deal with it. I finally had to say I need help, and went and got the help I needed. And the last year, like when that anxiety comes back, like knowing how to handle it is,
Yeah.
and yes, I have right now it's prayer and God gets me through it, but sometimes you need more than that. So I needed to get other tools that because I was so lost. Sometimes you can't find God.
Yeah.
And He's there, but He's there, and I'm looking in the wrong directions. And so
Yeah.
so I understand that anxiety, and it's a hard thing to go through, and part of me, since I got out of treatment, I'm like, I want to do something to help people. I haven't got those opportunities, but I'm here doing
You're
this.
doing it.
A year ago, if you said I was going to be in front of a camera doing an interview, I would have been like, yeah, you're crazy. Because I was the person that didn't speak. Even the people I knew for years, like I barely could come up with the words to speak. I would, after like 10 minutes, I'd be hiding in the corner fully in a panic state just because. And now I'm
Check
doing
you
it.
out. Look at
Yeah,
this.
doing
Look
it.
at what you're doing.
So I'm like, and it's like
beautiful.
when I came up with this idea, when I asked you to come do this, I was like, what am I doing? But hey, it's what I felt like. The whole reaching out to the man and reaching out to you. It's like every time I've done that, it's like the guy's like, we need to do this, and I'm like, that that's not my comfort zone. He's like I sent. It wasn't Moses' comfort zone either, and I sent him, and he's like, I'm going to be there with you, and someone. to guide you. And so here we are. And
So true.
yeah, so
I love your openness in talking about like going and getting help too, because I think there's so much of like, God obviously comforts us in so many different ways, but like sometimes he does bring people into our lives to help us and guide us to find him. Like I was in therapy for many years, like for anxiety and just all the trauma from health stuff and everything too. And that was an incredible experience. And so I think there's no shame. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because
yeah,
I think, like, as Christians, or I think in general, but like there's this shame of like, I should just be able to pray and like be okay. But it's
yeah,
like, well, yes, absolutely. Like pray first, and then God like is gonna bring people into your life that helps you and assists you in like finding him and finding the way. Like there's sometimes he brings people in and that's his gift. That's his answer to prayers.
yeah,
I love that you said that.
yeah. So you moved. You got what was it? SARS is that
Oh,
what it's called?
sirs, yeah.
SARS.
Yeah.
So you developed that. So tell us more about the story, which I already know the ending of the story, but I just wanted to
Thanks for leading it into it, though. I appreciate
back
it.
into it.
So there has been so much that has changed, literally, like in the last couple months. So the best way, and I'll tell more of the story whenever we all are together at the church. But basically, I started journaling, and this is when I was really sitting and like spending time with the Lord. And I started journaling, and I was writing on the tops of these papers October 11th, 2023. And this date hadn't happened yet. So this date was months away. And I was like, what? Why do I keep writing this down? And so I was like, you know what? There's probably going to be something cool that happens on October 11th. And so I just started praying into that, like, okay, Lord, if there's anything you need me to do to help, but, I'm excited to see what you do. And so October 11th comes around, and at this same time, I'd been praying for my health for years, that if I was supposed to be healed, that it would be in a way that God would get all the glory, and there would be no denying that it was from him. And so I was praying these two things separately, not thinking that they were going to be the same thing. But October 11th comes around, and through, like, long story short, through prayers of a stranger, prayers of my husband, oil and prayer, scripture, all the things came together, and I am like living in a new body that I haven't felt in years, since high school. Like I feel like I did in high school, and I like prayed for so long that this would be a thing. And then whenever it happened, I was like, is this real life? Like, it's just so funny that then we all of a sudden can doubt, and it's like, God, he's the same. Like, he's not his first time doing this, and it's not his last time doing this. Just like you
Exactly.
said, like, he's with you, like he was with Moses when Moses didn't feel equipped. And it's like, he's doing this all the time. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful and so honored that I get to tell this part of the story now.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's all that arc of that story is like pray for it. Like I said a year ago, like I was just lit, like barely surviving, and then now it's like it's now a great story to tell, but it's a story I can tell and say, hey, I struggled with this for years, and I tried on my own, and now through the help provided for me and me actually in the right headspace to follow Christ and follow God's direction, he's keeping me out of it.
Yes.
I have a story to fulfill, and it's been a long year because we went through that, and then I came back from my treatment and went back to work, and we and earlier this year we were like, this job's just not healthy for me, and he's like, you need to leave it. I've been at that job for 16 years, and he's like, you need to leave it, and so I quit and got a new job now, but we went 5 months without a job, just following, no, but following his direction, going, you don't need, need to, this isn't healthy for you. And it was like, but I have a family, I have this, we don't, what about like all the questions that you ask yourself, like all the, that you need for to survive in the world. And he's like, quit. And I quit, and it's been the greatest decision.
It's amazing. That's incredible.
Because even a lot of the stress after treatment that I had was all just from that job. And
Yeah.
even now, it's like I can deal with the stress. Like stress, that's the bad thing. The biggest change is that stress hits, and before it's like it just keeps piling up, and now it's like hits and goes. Okay, I clean that, swipe it away, and go. You start back at the bottom, and I know knowing how to handle that, and being in the right headspace to be able to pray and actually say, just take it from me, and actually go, okay, there's a reason, but I'm ready. I'm listening. What am I? And so it's just amazing that how different a mindset can be. Like
Yes.
from a mindset of defeat to a mindset of accepted. Like 'cause I
Yeah.
never felt accepted, and it was all my own head telling me that I was only good for what I did for people, and so I did a lot of things and for people, but it was all because I didn't feel like I would be seen if I wasn't.
Yeah,
And
and
so-
I love what you said because it reminds me. I was just listening to Priscilla Schreier. I love just like looking her up on YouTube and listening to her just inspiration and wisdom. But she literally just earlier today, I heard her say about like how we pray and we like always want this miracle to happen in our lives, but like we don't ever want to be in a place that we need a miracle to happen. And so it's like I love what you said about how we're in this place and we just get to open our hands and see, like, obviously, Lord, like, you're letting me be in this space for a reason. I'm excited to see what you're going to do because this is when miracles can happen whenever we're in those places.
Yeah, and exactly. Because I had an idea when I quit my job. I'm like, oh, I'm going to find something that I want to do that changes people and all this. And then he's like, oh, yeah, this job over here, like it's the same job I just left, just for a different company. He's like, yeah, that's where I want you. And I'm like, okay. So I took the job, and I'm like, and I'm meeting a lot of people and doing things, and I actually feel like I'm doing what, like, that's where he wants me. So I don't feel like I'm trapped in the job.
Yeah.
Before I felt like I was trapped, and now it's like this is where he chose me. We're off every Sunday, so I don't have to. I'm available. I'm not missing church.
Yes.
Before I could get a call at midnight going, "Hey, you got to work tomorrow on a Saturday
Wow.
night." And so it's been a blessing to have a job that I'm off every Sunday.
And he blesses obedience too. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of obedience in that story that you were like,
Yeah.
this makes no sense, but let's
Yeah.
go for it. Okay.
It made no sense. 'Cause, yeah, it was a tough summer because she had issues with her job right after I left mine, so we were both jobless for a few weeks, and it was like, okay, what's going on? Like we have
He's like,
kids
I
to care
got
for,
you.
and he's like, just trust. And I've never been like that's been the hardest thing is like I say, oh yeah, I'll follow, and like, but to actually trust, be like without the okay, yeah, I'll trust you, but I'm gonna keep my foot. Like I don't know. I'm not putting my foot all the way through the door. I'm gonna try to stay back in that comfort zone. And sometimes he doesn't want you in that comfort zone. So
That's so true.
so sorry. So what would you say you would be your like one of your favorite moments in music? I guess without with the
That's really good. My favorite moments in music. Like a specific one or kind of in general, my favorite
just in
things?
general, just like a certain event or just in general.
Okay. Well, I guess looking back, one of my favorite moments, it wasn't my favorite at the time, but I was playing this gig every Friday. I had like this residency at this place. It wasn't downtown, but it was like near it. And I felt God, like whenever he was like switching my heart towards like, I'm calling you out of this season, because I was always like, oh, I'm a country artist that's a Christian, so I get to sneak God in to places that maybe he wouldn't be talked about. So that was always like my thing that I was saying to myself, and then I felt him like, I'm not to be snuck in anymore. Like I don't need you to sneak me in. This needs to be what you're speaking about. And so it was like a secular gig, and so I was like, talked to the booking manager. And I'm like, hey, I really feel called to do like a full Christian set. And she said, well, technically, she was a Christian too. And she said, technically, I'm not allowed to hire a Christian artist to do a full Christian set. But if you're being called to it, go for it. And so I did it, and it was terrifying and awesome all at the same time. And it was like people were responding to it in ways that I hadn't experienced at that place. Now, I wasn't allowed to do it again, and so I had to stop playing there.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think why I say it's my favorite is because it's the most pivotal like switching point where I felt like on that same stage, I felt emptiness. I felt like I wasn't doing what God was calling me to do anymore. I felt like awoken to some of the lyrics that I was singing that I was always very like adamant on keeping everything that I did, like clean, family friendly, all that stuff. But it's funny how like some of those songs, I'm like, I didn't think this was bad. And then while I'm playing it, I'm like, this is awful. Like I had no idea, but like I just felt like that sanctification, he just like opens our eyes to things. And it was just one of those moments where on that same stage when I felt empty before, like I felt so full. And it was because God was in every single moment of that show. He wasn't just sneaking in and popping his head in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, yeah. So, any other than M.I.C Night, January 21st, any other shows coming up, or any other organizations you work with that you would like to talk about, share?
So I guess organizations I work with, I teamed up with a nonprofit called Malachi's Message, and we created the SIR Support Fund. So they were already helping people who were affected by mold illness, black mold, all that stuff. They were helping with that. And so now we created a branch off that specifically to help people with SIRS to get diagnosed, because unfortunately, a lot of testing and treatment isn't covered under most insurance policies. So everything is very much out of pocket. And at the same time, when this treatment's not covered, you're losing a lot of your belongings. You a lot of times lose the home that you're in because that's what made you sick. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
So that we created that to help with testing and treatment side of it. So you can look up the SIR Support Fund if anyone wants to check it out. But that's a lot of like where my heart is. And I know like God puts us through things so that way we can help others who are going through where we just were. And so I like to shout that out. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to say that.
No problem.
So this song I'm going to be sharing more on January 21st, so make sure you come on out. But as we were talking about, God has such an incredible opportunity to show up whenever we decide to praise him and worship him and love him through the midst of our storms. That's when he gets to truly give us that peace that transcends all understanding. And that's what this song's about. And it's called Worship You Wounded. If I'm being honest, sometimes the reason I'm kneeling is simply 'cause I don't have the strength to stand. I try to recognize that my weakness is a blessing, 'cause it brings me closer to the feet of the one true King. So while I'm on the ground, I will worship you wounded. You are my strength and my song. When I'm feeling broken, you revive my soul. Like a bird needs its wings, I need to sing. Lord, you bring the healing when I worship you wounded. Even when my faith is too small to see, he will multiply it as my rejoicing fills these walls. So take what I am and take what I have, even these holes in my body, make them shine with your glory. When I worship you wounded, you are my strength and my song. When I'm feeling broken, you revive my soul. Like a bird needs its wings, I need to sing. Lord, you bring the healing when I worship you wounded. So while I'm on the ground. I will trust you, bring blessings through trials, new life from fires, freedom from poor.